Good morning. Well, can you see anything different about me? If you saw yesterday's video, you know my hair was getting pretty long and I finally had just all I could take. And so I went late yesterday evening knowing, because I can check online, that I would be the only client at the place where my hair is cut. I went in and sure enough it was just me and the hairstylist, and I told her I want you to cut it as short as you can. So I wore a mask and she wore a mask and she cut my hair, and I asked her to check the records and see the last time I was in there. And the last time I was in there was almost exactly 5 months ago, a little more than 5 months actually. And so the good news is I'm not going to have to get my hair cut again until 2021, and I probably won't. It'll be long again by then, hopefully, but I'm not planning to get it cut between now and then. And that means that for today, of course, we have no choice. We just have to talk about the most famous haircut in all of history that we find in Judges 16, the story of Samson getting his haircut. And so let me read to you that story and then we'll talk a little bit about it. Then Delilah pouted, "How can you tell me I love you when you don't share your secrets with me? You've made fun of me 3 times now and you still haven't told me what makes you so strong." She tormented him with her nagging day after day until he was sick to death of it. So finally Samson shared his secret with her. "My hair has never been cut," he confessed, "for I was dedicated to God as a Nazirite from birth. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as anyone else." Delilah realized he had finally told her the truth, so she sent for the Philistine rulers. "Come back one more time," she said, "for he has finally told me his secret." So the Philistine rulers returned with the money in their hands. Delilah lulled Samson to sleep with his head in her lap, and then she called in a man to shave off the 7 locks of his hair. In this way she began to bring him down, and his strength left him. Then she cried out, "Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you." When he woke up, he thought, "I will do as before and shake myself free." But he didn't realize that the Lord had left him. So the Philistines captured him and gouged out his eyes. They took him to Gaza, where he was bound with bronze chains and forced to work to grind grain in the prison. But before long, his hair began to grow back. Now, in one way, this is the story, like so many stories where we break our vows, of a moment of weakness. In a moment of weakness, he tells Delilah his secret, and that brings him down. But in fact, like almost all of the times when we break the vows that we break to other people or to God, it isn't just a moment of weakness, but it is paved in a long line of making sacrifices to our vows, making concessions to our vows. We often destroy relationships not with a single deadly blow, but with 1,000 cuts. And that's exactly what happens with Samson. He is a Nazirite. His mother made vows to God on his behalf when he was born. He is to fulfill those vows, and yet he goes through a progression of failing to fulfill those vows. As a Nazirite, he wasn't to drink any alcohol, and yet 2 chapters before, he goes to a great banquet, and it is heavily implied that he drinks at that banquet. As a Nazirite, he's not to eat anything that would defile him, and yet in the chapter before, he finds a bee, a honeycomb, and the bees have made their nest in the carcass of a dead lion, and he reaches into that carcass, and because the honeycomb is there in that symbol or that sign or that literal image of death, it is defiled, and so he's broken his vow again, and now he breaks his vow for a third and the most public way, for his hair to be shaved. And at that point it says the strength of the Lord left him, but in fact that was paved a long time before. And this almost isn't a miracle where his strength just disappears, but it's that his relationship with the Lord and the vows that he had made with the Lord had gotten so weak, and he had broken so many of them, that no longer could he rely on the strength of the Lord because he had let it all go. That's true when we break marriage vows. People who break marriage vows may say it happened in a moment of weakness, but in fact it was paved with many weeks or months or years of inattention and not tending to the marriage. Many times when someone is convicted of embezzling, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, they will say, I never intended for this to happen. I was hungry one day, I didn't have lunch money, and I knew there was money in the petty cash, and I took a few dollars, and I was just planning to pay it back, and I never paid it back, and then I did it again, and then I needed more money, and now I, without even realizing it, have taken hundreds of thousands of dollars. John Gottman is a relationship expert, and whether we are talking about a relationship that we want to build with our spouse or with a friend or with our children or with God, Gottman says that relationships aren't made in great leaps and bounds. They're actually made in every single day, finding ways to express gratitude, to give expressions of love, very small expressions of love. For example, he says for our spouses, we should do a 7-second kiss every day as a way not just of pecking on the cheek and moving on, but giving some attention. Every single day, finding ways to show those that we love, that we are interested in them and that we are paying attention to them. And doing that is almost magic. Just like giving a plant water and sunlight and it just kind of magically grows. If we simply give gratitude and love and attention each day, we find that it's easy to keep our vows because we're building a stronger and a stronger and a stronger relationship. And so from the story of Samson, let us this day renew our commitment to our relationships, whether they are human relationships or our relationships with God, and simply commit ourselves to keeping our vows by every single day finding a way to offer gratitude for those relationships, whether it is to other people or to God, to express the love that we have, whether it is to other people or to God, and to give attention to those people or attention to God. And in doing so, we will find that unlike Samson, we are able to keep our vows. But I want to mention one more thing before we go. That final verse in that 16th chapter of Judges is so powerful. But before long, Samson's hair began to grow back. None of us can keep our vows perfectly. We will sin, we will make mistakes, we will betray other people. And when we do, there is the promise of God that our relationships can grow back. God can help us with reconciliation, whether it is reconciliation with God or reconciliation with others. And so before long, our hair may grow back. Before long, our relationships can grow back. And it may be a long process again of building up again, but there is that wonderful promise from God that God will never leave us or forsake us, even when we leave or forsake God. And God is always there, as the prodigal son's father was, to take us back. We are so thankful for all of these promises, thankful for the opportunities God gives us, because God is with us. Amen.